wanted to say Merry Christmas. That's really all I wanted to do, because I guess a little bit of context here. The day I'm recording this is the 29th, so I should probably mention that as a result, not only is it 4 days past, but by the time I release this, it should probably be halfway into January or something like that. So it's gonna be quite late, but I don't think that's really important, because I guess the reason why I want to do this is because and I've always wanted to do this. I probably have mentioned before in the past episodes that I've been sidetracked by at least a couple years due to a very unfortunate circumstances, but they weren't really avoidable. I couldn't do much about it, and well, I could do a lot of it, but I couldn't do anything to avoid it. I could only do as much as I could to manage it. And unfortunately, that means that, it's like 3, 4, 5 years even since, not 5, but about 3.5 years since I wanted to do this. And it's just, every year I wanted to say, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to those who don't have, to the have-nots. And I don't think there's a better time right now, since I just did the recording about a media recording about 2 days ago, maybe even yesterday. And I feel good because, like I said, I've been having a lot of difficulty communicating myself due to the fact that I just haven't been doing these media, podcasts, video, whatever, reflections. And that stunted my capacity to translate my thoughts into verbal communication and to properly articulate myself and my thoughts to others. So I came back from work just about 2 or 3 hours ago, and I guess it helps that coming back from work means that I've been in direct social interaction with other people. But even then, sometimes I don't get that much interaction because there's so much work to do. But being at work in a retail setting with great colleagues, compounded with the fact that it's also festive holiday season, so that's like several factors together, means that I feel like I'm very open. I left pretty happy, right? To see the people that I wanted to see. I didn't plan to see them, it just happened, right? And got to catch up. It was nice. There's like a grocery manager, and I don't think of him as a grocery manager, I just think of him as the name that he is, as who he is. But again, I can't disclose I don't like to disclose personal private information unless absolutely necessary, which is not. So let's just say abbreviate K and M, the managers for PI or inventory, the other one is for grocery. And a good friend of mine, also a few of them actually at the front desk as well. So it kind of brought to me. So this is kind of what I want to say is that right, this is a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year for the have-nots, or rather people who just don't have the stereotypical westernized large family gathering with Yule logs and Christmas trees and everything like that. And for me personally, can't tell, I'm not exactly what I consider myself to be, because I was born and grew up in a westernized country. I consider myself mixed, heavily mixed, very, very mixed, because of circumstances that meant that I was raised more by culture and the books and experience than I was raised by any sort of quote-unquote family. So I was raised by culture, I was raised by knowledge, I was raised by friends, I was raised by peers. I wasn't really raised by any paternal figures or maternal figures, right? And so that means that I've been influenced by all sorts of cultures, all sorts of religions, all sorts of non-religions, non-cultures, behaviors, norms. And I've never really distinguished between whether or not someone celebrates Christmas or New Year in a certain way, needing to have lavish gifts and all that kind of stuff, right? That's not really been important to me ever since I was young. We never had that anyways. Wait, that was just not a thing. If we were to celebrate Christmas, celebrate by any, I guess, traditional standards of Christmas with respect to the Western, it wasn't a real celebration or real gathering, I suppose. It was more like I said, a reunion or a gathering. And I think most people treat Christmas like this in a Western setting. You know, you come back with all your relatives and your friends and you just get together. I think that's a very, also a very normalized way. That's why we say happy holidays, right? For those who don't necessarily celebrate the religious aspect or component of Christmas. So it's not that important. And neither is it especially important to have things like Yule logs and Christmas trees and stuff like that. Although if you do have it, all the merrier, all the better, right? And, you know, even if you're not particularly religiously devout, have those relationships with Christmas in terms of a religious context. A lot of, you know, friends and colleagues and people who grew up in a westernized country, we grew up, I know I did, I guess maybe I should speak for myself here, grew up, you know, singing Christmas carols in grade school, gluing, you know, those like snow angels together and stuff like that. And that was kind of the makeshift way, the improvised improv way, or I guess some people who nowadays are a little bit more, I understand that now people are quite, I guess, wealthier in some way. There's like some sort of standard, and I feel like it's a bit of a self-entitled culture that's kind of spread across social media and stuff like that, saying that you should, you know, do things a certain way, behave a certain way, celebrate in a certain way even. And I think that's kind of hogwash, you know, hogwash, using such old terminology, 90s baby. But yeah, I think it's kind of bullshit. You don't really have to celebrate that way. And I guess you wouldn't consider that celebrations, but I think that's still kind of a celebration if you just get together with people you love or people you care for. And again, family is not blood, but, you know, family is people you have, you know, meaningful experiences with at a close enough depth and breadth to say that, you know, you could not do without them, without tremendous loss. And you really cherish the company. I think that kind of summarizes what family is to me, and I think for quite a few people. So I have Smirnoff here, and I'll bring up some examples of people who I see on a daily basis or every other day, and some of them are merely like very mild acquaintances. They're just people I see. They're more like, yeah, we're acquainted. Not even acquainted, it's just someone passerby. But someone frequent. Usually, like, for example, I'll give like maybe a myriad of 3 or 4 examples that really brought me to want to do this. For example, about 4 or 5 days ago on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, I took the bus up north, and there's what we call Circle K. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but if you know, you do. If you know, you know. But it's like a, you know, a gas station kind of convenience store kind of thing. And there's this really friendly young Indian cashier who's always really warm and very brotherly. You know, he goes around and he's like, "How's it going, brother?" That kind of stuff. And he doesn't have to do that, because knowing that gas station, it's not gas station, but it's a corner store, there's just usually a lot of not so great interactions and conflicts, right? Because you're working retail, but this is particularly in an area where there's a lot of people who are kind of homeless and drug addicts and stuff like that. And that's not to say that I've met a lot of friendly people who are on the streets, but it's just a higher statistic and chance that you will run into people who don't have the greatest impulse control. And quite frankly, that station, by the way, is also kind of like a cornerstone between, it's highly gentrified, so there's extreme upper and lower class. So yeah, there will be homeless and some drug addicts, but there'll also be, it's a really rich, pompous snobs, really self-entitled, like Karens and stuff like that. And they kind of get the worst of both worlds. So the fact that this young Indian guy, and I think he graduated from international, having a mild conversation with once. Again, privacy, confidentiality, nothing else mentioned. He's been working full time, and he's working Christmas. And I saw the day before that, maybe it was like the 23rd, the day before Christmas Eve, there was a not so great interaction, right? Where someone felt he was like profiling them, and he's like, no, I'm not. I just have to ask if you're gonna buy beer or alcohol here. I just have to ask for your ID. But someone got in a fit about that, and I tried to mediate. And again, you can see the stress because he's like every single day, and like I get it because I've done jobs in healthcare and office and warehousing and construction, but recently in retail. So I get it. I've always understood. So I guess this is, for example, I'm going to take a shot later, and part of that's going to be for him. And if I don't think he's watching, because this is like a very obscure little channel, and it's just symbolic. I'm only doing this symbolically. I don't really believe that any of the people I'm going to mention, for example, this very friendly, very brotherly young man, are ever going to see this. Another interaction. So after the same day, I think it was Christmas Eve, I never saw him. I usually go there to pick up like hot chocolate or a cup of coffee. Not the best, but I gotta stop doing that. So I had a warm interaction with him, and then coming back home, I took the same route, the bus route back, and there was this guy. There were two interactions. One, there was this, like I said, there was a really nice homeless guy, and he asked me a question that. Again, because it's anonymous, I'll say it, but otherwise I wouldn't say. Basically, he asked me, do you have some weed or some smokes? And he didn't do it in an obnoxious way. I know some people would disagree with me being friendly with him. I think that's full of shit. Fuck you. If you're gonna be treating people, he's been polite, he's been nice. He wasn't, I'm not gonna treat him any differently. And we can disagree on that. That's okay. I have friends who disagree with that. Okay, but he treated me nicely. He just asked a simple question. He's like, hey, bud, are you moving some this? And I'm like, no, I don't move product like that. I'm like, dude, it's not good for you. It's Christmas. Why? Come on, you can do better. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm just homeless. I'm like, oh, you're coping and whatever. So we had a mild conversation. He's like, but if you get a chance to do better, just try to stop me. He's like, yeah, I got it. And he understood that I was doing this. I was telling him this civilly in a polite fashion because I genuinely just want him to improve and get out of the situation. And I recognize that what he's doing is not helping him, and he knows it. So when we boarded the bus later on, after we parted ways, and we came back together again, not intentionally, it just happened to board the same bus. He gave me a nod. That's all there was, right? It's just like a passerby. We probably see each other, pass each other by on the street, once every month or so without even noticing. But that's all it takes, right? You just live in the same neighborhood. Same thing with that guy who is working at the corner store. And a third interaction was, and this is a driver I really like, and she's like, I think she's like maybe 40-year-old, something like that. Middle-aged woman who's just really, really resilient and persevering and warm. She's a very warm personality. And this bus route is hell for a lot of drivers because the bus route that's taken, we call it the 75 Sherburne, is ridiculous. If you know, you know. It's along a street where there's just a lot of people who are going through homelessness and stuff like that. They're homeless tents. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of piss stains and smell. And I'm not going to mention more and more because I don't want to talk about derogatory things about it because that's not my point here. The point is it's a very difficult job to do this bus route. And this bus driver, she's just I think she's like Latino, something like that, speaks a little bit Espanol. And I'm not 100% sure, but she is a very warm personality from what I've seen, is that when other drivers come here, whether they're like older men or younger women, they tend to get really pissed off. Some of them get scared, some of them get anxious, Some they get really angry, right? But she is very resilient. And I don't know what her upbringing is. Everyone's got their own story. I'm not going to pry into it. I've never asked. I just presume that either her personality, she's just like that, or she grew up understanding what this is like because she knew what it's like to not have, and understood abject poverty and climbed her way out of it while still maintaining her personality intact. Because through life, a lot of people grow up poor, become really rich, and then they switch up. They become very snobbish and entitled because it's the first time that they're experiencing wealth, and then they lose control of themselves and fall off the rails. But she doesn't do that, and I don't know if it's a combination. Maybe it is because she has a personal experience. Maybe it's because that's just her personality, or maybe it's both, or other things. But for whatever reason, she was working that Christmas Eve for Christmas, and just like the other retail guy working on Christmas. And I asked him, is he celebrating? He's like, no, I'm working on Christmas. I can't really do anything. So this kind of, seeing these couple interactions, the guy was on the street, the international Indian student who graduated and is working in a corner store on Christmas. The driver, the public service driver, who she always has a smile on her face or tries her best to help people in need, and has a very strong personality and a very enduring personality at that. But again, working on Christmas, can't really celebrate while everyone else is. I guess I want to dedicate this to them. And I've always wanted to do this. Again, it's sad that I couldn't do this in like 2019 and 2020 and 2021 because I was doing a really, I guess I was in a very abusive workplace, and then living in a very abusive household, and then eventually that led into a very it was a very horrible neighborhood even. But I'm kind of free from that, and I took a lot of proactive measures to get myself out of that, cut off the bad food, and surround myself with great people instead, which is, I guess, what's most important, right, when it comes to one of the domains of life, which is social circles and relationships. So now that I can afford to do that, and I live my own place and all that stuff and all that crap, everything's kind of much better. I feel kind of bad that it's 2024 now. It's 3, 4, 5 years too late to do the others, but it's never too late to wish a very Merry Christmas to the have-nots, the people who are working on Christmas Day, on Christmas Eve, who are working on Happy New Year's, on New Year's, 2025, January 1st, and December 31st, New Year's Eve. This is a Smirnoff, and I was going to say we're gonna have a beer, but that's not gonna happen because I actually drank. I had my cousins over and drank all the beer, so yeah. Cheers. Okay, Merry Christmas to the people who that's kind of halfway through. I want to talk now a little bit about, so those are people who, for example, there was someone who was on the streets, kind of homeless, on Christmas. It was a cold day. There was also 2 examples of workers. One's a public service worker, one in retail. A young man and older woman who are working on Christmas. They don't get to spend time with their family while everyone else is, but they're putting their efforts out there. Appreciate that. Now I'm gonna dive into a different example, and these are a few of my colleagues. Again, no names, anonymous, no personal details. Okay, but I'll give 2 examples, and again, I'm just gonna use a single letter abbreviation for their name, right? V, and for example, K and L. So V and K. I'm not always the most sensitive person. Sometimes I'm very blunt. That kind of puts off people sometimes. But, you know, there are also people who are very strong personalities and they don't mind for me. So I'm very pleased, and I really greatly appreciate having colleagues who are just, they're strong personalities as well, and they don't really always get upset about stuff like that. And they've given their good faith, and we have conversations and we have a good time together. And so V and L, right? Again, no names here, just B and L. Both of them don't have, she doesn't have kids. At one point I asked, we were boarding the bus, and I found out. I just asked a very insensitive question, I suppose. And the classic thing you're not supposed to do, people say, is to never ask people about their family or their religion or their politics and stuff like that. I don't exactly listen to that. And because for me, I don't mind if people ask me that either. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I don't really shy away from topics. If you can tell, my channel is just a representation of who I am to a degree, and I don't mind talking about controversial topics, if you couldn't tell, because life is not rainbows, ponytails, and sunshine. It's not that diversity, inclusion bullshit. People die, people suffer, there's pain everywhere. I don't think we really need to shy away from this. This isn't really a channel for like coddling little kids or coddling adults, or definitely not. So, but it doesn't mean we're barbaric, right? I'm not cussing out left, right, and center and saying, this fucking sucks and everything like that. No, that's not what I'm doing. We're having just a conversation, right? That's as real as it gets. And so, I had conversations, and at one point I was catching up, and Hell also told me he didn't have kids. I said, oh, well, you have a partner, right? And said, yeah. And, she actually takes care of my parents and stuff like that. Again, nothing too confidential. I said, well, that's great. She's a very doting wife, and I'm sure you're very happy together, and it looks like you're about to retire, right? You're about that age group. It's like, yeah. And it's like, you don't mind? I'm like, no, because I never really, if you couldn't tell, my kid's grown up, and he's like, it's not conventional in any way. It's not my biological son. It's more like an adopted kind of thing. And he's like 20 something now, and it's the happiest thing I've ever experienced, right? Was like when he was able to make decisions on his own and surpass me in his own right. And Joe, he said, I want to see you be there at my wedding or whatever, and stuff like that. And that's the proudest moment of my life, right? Among others. And I felt the same way for him. I said, I tried to support him. I said something that was trying to encourage him to say, it doesn't really matter to me, because different people have different notions of what family is. You have a partner. Other people have kids. Other people have a business interest. Other people, it's just their dog. But that doesn't make it any less valuable, because different people with different lives, and I'm not in any position to judge, okay? Because life is not perfect. It's full with a lot of spoiled fruit, right? What's the analogy that they say, right? It's a basket full of cherries, and a lot of them are kind of ruined and spoiled and stomped on, and there's a lot of tragedy. So there's nothing wrong with having other methods of attaining love, comfort, and warmth. And anyone who looks down on you for that, I'm just gonna tell you, they're full of shit. From my city, 2 middle fingers up, that's how we do it. Fuck you up the ass around the corner, for anyone who's gonna be a judgmental prick. So I told Elle, hey, that's fine, because like nowadays, it probably costs like 2.5 million to raise a kid. I don't like putting quantitative numbers for raising kids or stuff like that, or relationships, but given how, difficult there's war, there's the pandemic, there's like scarcity of resources worldwide, there's the AI technology, causing a lot of difficulties and challenges in hiring and stuff like that. All these many different factors, and it's very responsible, I think, to think about whether or not you can actually have kids and give them a meaningful life. So I felt that's what I told Elle. When I told V, and she told me this, because I said, well, what do you have? You have a partner, right? And maybe you can go traveling on a cruise. And yeah, we talked a little bit. She said, yeah. And then as well, in addition to that, she also has a dog. And I said, I have a friend like that. He's got a little Monty Poodle, right? Again, no names mentioned, just letter abbreviation, B or K or A. A has a dog. His name is Lucky. He's 4 years old. He's an adorable little critter. He's a little feisty now because he's an adult. And, what's wrong with that? because I've met a lot of dogs who have more humanity than other humans have, and that's also a truth. And so this is again, this makes me want to appreciate and take another shot for those who, I guess, nowadays with such a judgmental culture, we kind of lost the humanity that we used to have before social media and TikTok and the pandemic and the screwed up like judgmental Gen Alpha or whatever. Like, it's all that crap. I've never really given a shit about whether or not you have a certain thing and your expectations are fulfilled for that. It's more about how you live your life according to the appropriate circumstances that you've experienced. And I can respect that. So here's another shot for my colleagues. Merry Christmas, cheers. They're not watching this, but again, this is just symbolic, and I just like doing this for the people who don't have the traditional standard of measure. I don't even believe that at all, right? The fact that there are people who like to measure how people value family or celebrate to some kind of rigid, I would say very upper, rich, wealthy, like upper middle class standard is just nonsense, because there are people all around the world. It's 190 countries. 190 countries. At least half of them are living in poverty. At least half of them are third world developing. How can you? It's just so out of touch. It's just so out of touch. And so, Merry Christmas to the people who don't have the have-nots. Merry Christmas to the people who don't have the conventional one son and one daughter family. To people who don't have a house, who don't have enough money to afford to, who don't have a career, don't have a way to earn income. To the people who are working 7 days a week and are working on the holidays. To people who have different circumstances that make them unable to experience the quote-unquote quintessential standard of a upper-class wealthy family. You can still celebrate Christmas, and if no one else is going to do it for you, even for the orphans out there. And I know, for example, one of my other colleagues, like I just mentioned, one of my managers, Kay, all of his family is in like New Delhi. Another one, it's all in Dubai. And so they just celebrate with friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. So again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you and all of them. And to those of you who are watching this who also don't have the most conventional family or celebrations, it doesn't really fucking matter to me. And I hope you have a great time. If it does, it's not. By the time you watch this, it will probably be like January 9th or whatever. It doesn't even matter to me that it's within the same day. In the Philippines, Filipinos start celebrating Christmas or start preparing in September. So that starts about 4 months ahead of the westernized countries. I have no problem with that. In fact, I'm the kind of person who would probably leave Christmas decorations on all year long. But then take them, like just have a few, and then I'll add a lot more during Christmas. So yeah, I just want to share that. And I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity for me to be able to articulate it, since I was able to pick. It's amazing how much you improve, or not improve, how much you can remember, you can recall. I just had like a maybe 2-3 hour session, like 1 or 2 days ago, where I did a video recording or media recording and podcast recording. And now my capacity to articulate has sort of returned almost fully. It's like at least 50-60%. It's just like riding a bicycle, they say, right? When your grandfather's holding on the joystick. It's one of those things, or like driving as an adult, it's one of those skills that once you master, and then you lose because you don't participate enough through time due to other activities getting in the way. If you're given the opportunity to relearn, you will relearn it with extraordinary ease. And I'm very pleased and I'm very happy that I could actually express myself properly this time. And so again, Merry Christmas to those who are less fortunate. to those who don't necessarily have kids or a spouse or grandparents or parents who are orphans, who are fleeing some sort of tragedy or warfare, those in Ukraine, to the soldiers fighting on the front in Russia, to the people who are working 7 days a week or working on the weekends or working on specifically these festive holidays, to those who don't even have a house, don't have a career, don't have a way to make sustainable ends meet. Merry Christmas to all of you, coming from someone who was once in a place like that. And that's it. I think that's all I have to say there. Maybe I have this opportunity to make myself look stupid, because if you could do it, it's like Christmas. Yeah, we will. I don't know, it's like talk in my hair. It's a little weave thing with poinsettias. And here's a little gift I received from my cousin when he came over. One of my many cousins. It's a little irresistible. It's a big box, no little box. Belgian cookie. So yeah, Merry Christmas to all of you. Why don't you before this, if you're watching this and you happen to want to feel the festivities, grab a beer before this episode or media file or podcast recording or video ends, and cheers to you right now. Oh, I should look up. So stupid. Merry Christmas to the haves and the have-nots. Okay. Again, this doesn't take away, by the way, just quick disclaimer, this doesn't take away from the people who have the upper rich middle class version of Christmas. If you have like the Brady Bunch or the Seinfeld or the Friends type, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like those like TV dramas and stuff like that I love, that I grew up watching even as a child, because I could always understand like just general adult humor was never out of my reach. I never could shy away from that. It wasn't that's a luxury that I couldn't afford. So, if you have that kind of big family gathering with the large ass Christmas tree and like 30, 40, 50 people coming together, this doesn't take away from you either. It's Merry Christmas to the haves and the have-nots, okay? Not one or the other, both. All.